Welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson. Man, I ran across this article. I was looking at this CBS NFL, and I ran across this article that was being written by some cat named Brian Diardo. Okay, and I guess he's a sports writer or whatever. And he had this particular article that he has, every NFL's best player who is not enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame yet. That title within itself, because you guys know I talk about this all the time. I get a lot of flack, but I also get a lot of people. It's like, yeah, man, you got a point there. When we start talking about the Hall and whatnot, being that somebody that actually spent the whole complete day at the Hall, childhood dream, went there and everything, every guy that played in the NFL is not going to be in the Hall of Fame. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the homers and whatnot, all those guys out there. Sorry for that. You're not. A lot of them guys are not going to be in the Hall of Fame. Is there Hall of Famers that's in the Hall that shouldn't be? Of course, plenty of them. I'm going to probably doing a show on that one as well. But I'm gonna probably go through this guy's list, not one by one. There's certain ones I say, okay, I see what he's saying. There's certain ones I'm like, no, dude. So one of the first ones I'm gonna deal with, because obviously it starts with the A for the team that he plays for, as well as his name. Actually, and I saw this guy play. He would give my team fits when they did play. That was always a hard win for the Capitals. Sometimes Capitals would lose that game. That was a hard fought game. It's when the Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals, or whatever you wanted to call them and stuff like that. Whenever they would, when they would play the Cowboys. So when you had Otis Anderson, who came out of the University of came out of Miami and whatnot, came out of Miami there in 1979. I'm like, he was a force. I'm like, he kind of set the bar extremely high when it came to that rushing record. He broke, I think at the time, Earl Campbell's rookie rushing record, and the 1605 later on, whether it was George Rogers, because George Rogers in his career was almost similar. If you go take a look at everything, and Otis Anderson came out swinging, came out doing his thing and stuff like that and everything like that. So I ran across that article, but I already ran across another article where it's people trying to argue for Otis Anderson, well, he has 2 rings, and I'm like, pump the brakes. Right? Pump the brakes on this. Let's do this. Otis Anderson from 1979 1985. I didn't really use 1986 simply because he got traded around the 6th game of the season or something like that. He played 4 games for the Cardinals, and then he would play 8 games for the Giants. He played 12 games that year. I think he was hurt some of that season, but he would end up getting traded midway or whatever and stuff like that. Only played 12 games. Now his first 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. You talking about his first 7 years in the league. Well, his first 7 years in the league, he was stellar. 7,520 yards, 46 touchdowns. After that last 1,000-yard season that he actually had. Right, if you go take a look at that, which was in 1984, he would not rush for another 1,000 yards, right, until 1989. Now, his last one before that was at age 27. The next time he would rush for 1,000 yards would be in 1989. In the midst of that being traded, he got him a ring with the Giants, and then in that 1990, when they went to the Super Bowl and won it all, he rushed for 784 yards a year with the Giants and whatnot, and made that memorable run. He was the Super Bowl MVP, made that run. He put that form on Kelso. I used to always say, sitting up there looking like Mr. Gazoo. It was Mr. Gazoo or whatever. And his helmet looked like Mr. Gazoo's helmet on the Flintstones and whatnot. That Martian, the only one that could see him was Fred. And it had the helmet. His helmet looked exactly like that, and he threw that forearm shiver on him. But yeah, 7,520 yards, 46 touchdowns in his first 7 years or so with that of the Cardinals. But guess what, y'all? Guess what? You know what the record was for the St. Louis Cardinals during that particular time? They were 44-60-1. Right now, old boy wants to, what's his name? He wants to point out Mr. Diardo wants to point out, he said, well, Otis Anderson, 82, 84, he said scored 45 touchdowns while helping the Cardinals post 3 consecutive winning seasons. Those winning seasons consisted of 5-4, 8-7-1, and 9-7. One of those seasons, strike-shortened season, that was the only time that they actually went to a particular playoff game. The other 8-7-1 and 9-7-1, come on, that's like they did nothing. So they went to the playoffs one time. You're 44, 60, and 1. That was the record, right? Otis Anderson came out the box that first year he came out, and there's no denying what he did. I've already, we've talked about that. From that time on, like I said, 1605, 8 touchdowns, 1352 his second year, 9 touchdowns, 1376, 9 workhorse, strike short year, 3 touchdowns, 587 yards rushing, 1270, 1174. Done. You follow what I'm saying? It's done. That's the end of that. Now, he ended up getting on a Giants team that ended up winning 2 Super Bowls. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot, just because he went and did that and got on the team, won it, and then won an MVP, and say, well, see, based upon what he did, and then try to take the couple of years there with the Giants and get 2 Super Bowls out of it, and then put him up into that of the Hall of Fame. Because he rushed for basically 7,520 yards his first 7 to 8 years in the league, which is comparable. But I'm like, what did your team do? Go back and look at Eric Dixon. Go back and look at guys like Earl Campbell. Go back and look at even O.J. Simpson and guys like that or whatever. Guys that kind of put teams on their back. You look at like with Eric Dickerson is the best example of somebody who did not have a quarterback, who got this team to the playoffs every single year, even to an NFC championship game, and then set records in divisional games. So it's just like, this is the thing that you got to do. So you got to keep this up. You can't have, I got 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decent years and whatnot, but my team is losing. He didn't do anything. Go back to Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell's first 3 years in the league, 78, 79, 80, all straight through 2 years in a row. They went to the AFC championship game and got to the playoffs. They got to the playoffs and everything like that. His first 5 years. I mean, like I said, it's a different way on how that stuff is measured when your team is winning. You can't go 5-11, 5-11, and 7-9. That's the first 3 years in the league. 5-4, 8-7, 9-7. That's the next 6 years. That's 6 years altogether. Throw in the 1985 season, 5-11. They went to the playoffs once. One time. And because he would get a ring later on in his football career, you cannot put him in the Hall of Fame because of that. There's no reason for this article to even really be written because he didn't do anything worth that. Was Otis Anderson back? Yeah. Again, this happens where you're stuck on a team and you have all your talent. And I was just going back and forth with a guy about me when Herschel Walker got on a show earlier this year, I believe, and talking about how he should be in the Hall of Fame. He said, based upon what? This is the NFL Hall of Fame. This is not NBA. This is not the NBA Hall of Fame where women, some type of coach or whatever, whoever played any kind of basketball in college and pro, and if they were great in college, they get thrown in the same Hall of Fame with somebody like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dr. J, Michael Jordan, Bob Cousy, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. Half of them guys shouldn't even be in there because it's based upon what they did. Even down to guys like Bill Walton, who only because of injuries, in the Hall of Fame because of what he did in UCLA. Because his pro career did not end up being what his pro career supposed to have been. So I don't even understand the Naismith Hall of Fame. But I know who gets it together is going to be obviously NFL, Major League Baseball, and probably the NHL. But I'm like, women in the Hall of Fame, man, get out of here with that, man. I'm like, what is that? But that's another argument for another time. So my point is this, is that no, Otis Anderson does not belong in the NFL Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame. Sorry. You don't belong up in there. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying 44, 60, and 11 your first 7 years in the league. You would get 2 rings in your latter years. Your career is similar to that of George Rogers. Extremely similar to that of George Rogers. But that's the point. Those guys did not, or you don't deserve to be in that of the Hall of Fame, because you would get 2 rings at the end of your career and have a nice little player and end up being a Super Bowl MVP. Nice career though, but not an MVP, not a Pro Football Hall of Fame, because your numbers just don't really add up. You got some good rushing touchdowns, but you was used a lot of time in short yardage on the goal line and whatnot because of your size. When Otis Anderson first came out, O.J. Anderson was a force. First couple of so years, he was nice. But he ended up being a 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, 2-time Super Bowl champ later in his career. You follow what I'm saying? So you still have to win in this particular league. You have to win in this league in order to make an impression and be consistent for a long period of time. Go back and look at somebody like Walter Payton, who played on a bunch of sorry Chicago Bears teams. And you look at him from 1983. Dickens took over in 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87. And look at what he did. He put up nice numbers. Great numbers. But he wasn't really going away. He did go to playoffs a couple times with Neil Armstrong as coach. Then at least from 83, 84, 85, 86, right up to 87, I'm like, nice, nice. And then he had the type of numbers, 16, 17, 1,800 yards, 14, 15. He did that. Otis did 16. He did 16 plus. He did 16. He did 1605. And he did 13 back to back. He was doing that. He never seen 13 or 14 or 15 for the next couple of so years. He didn't see that anymore. If he'd have kept that pace from what he was doing, 13, another 13, or 14, or 15, and say, even on a losing team, he would have probably been in the Hall of Fame. But he did not grab that. He didn't have that anymore. Okay? So like I say, man, again, no, he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And you can't throw a joker in the Hall of Fame just because, he got 2 rings and then. That's the Corey Dillon syndrome, which is originally the Otis Anderson syndrome. You can't help where you get drafted at, and you just got to deal whatever cards that you dealt, you got to play them. Corey Dillon had a nice career, but Corey Dillon does not deserve to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because he would get a ring later on in his life and run for 1,600 yards with that of the Pats. You don't throw him in there just because. All that losing is a part of your resume, whether you want it or not. It's a part of your resume. I tell guys that all the time. Part of the resume. It is a part of your resume. So you have to deal with that. So no, Otis Anderson, I'll be doing some more off of what he's doing. So Otis Anderson definitely does not deserve to be in a Pro Football Hall of Fame, based upon, not because of he couldn't play, because obviously the guy was a force. He was a good back. He was really good. You don't think of him as great because he didn't do that. First 3 years in the league, it was nice. You're talking about somebody 18, 19, almost had 30 touchdowns in 3 years, his first 3 years. The next 3 years, and then after then, nothing. Then you go get 2 rings over there because you're on a team that's well coached and well talented. Then you get your ring, then you have a nice Super Bowl. That don't put you in the Hall of Fame, champ. All right? I'll probably be back a little bit later, man. Like I said, it's a couple more that I want to deal with and whatnot as well. So, like I say all the time, check me out on Twitter. Subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff like that. Check me out on Twitter. And I tell you guys all the time, there's no greatest of all time as long as time is still going on. And like I tell you, just on this right here. Numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. All right? I'll be back in a second.